When I started working in industry, I discovered that coding was not just typing something that runs. I had spent years learning different programming languages, while there were other skills that were much more important for working as a software engineer. My name is Miguel and I've been working in software for the past 4 years. I've been working in different industries like data and aerospace. I'm going to give you here the 3 things that you have to learn to be a good software engineer. The first thing is Git. I've seen a lot of juniors programmers or people in an interview applying for a software engineer position that they are asked, do you know how to use Git? And they say, yeah, you mean GitHub? Okay, if this is your case, please go type on Google Git and learn how to use Git. There are tons of great courses in courses of 5-10 hours where you will learn everything that you need to know from Git. If you have never used Git in a software project, let me tell you that you maybe know how to code, but you have never worked in a real industry context. Anyway, I'll give you the idea quickly. Imagine you are working with 2, 3, 4 people and everyone is changing the same files and coding in the same files. How do you know what is the ground truth? What is the code that is correct? It's a mix, it's one of them. Git gives you a framework to solve that. And all the tools in the Git ecosystem like GitHub, GitLab, Jira, they are tools designed to improve your workflow and to have a productive workflow in an industry context. The point here is that I believe that the best way to understand these things is to work with them. It's like with everything, you first do something and then you learn. So make sure of knowing the basics of Git, so when you go to an interview you don't have the problem that I told you before. If you already knew Git, this point may seem too simple for you, but trust me, if you already know Git, probably you can get a job where you get paid more. Because I've seen a lot of interviews for young engineers, even engineers where we ask for experience, and I've seen them struggling when they are asked about Git. I help software engineers to switch jobs and add $30,000 to their salary in just 3 months. If you're interested, check out the link on the description. The second thing to learn is testing. Testing means that part of your repository is dedicated to test the rest of the repository. Simple script that checks features of your code, and every time that you're making a modification of your code, you run these tests to make sure that you have not broken anything. If any of them fails, it means that probably you have done something wrong in your coding. However, if you're not testing, this bug won't show up, but it will appear in the future. And in the future, maybe even not the same developer will find the bug and it will be harder to fix. Testing today saves you time of debugging tomorrow. You may need more or less tests depending on which project you are working on, but a good North Star, a good rule to know if you need to test more or less is how easy it is to debug your code. If your code is hard to debug, probably you need to test more your code. It's not the only rule. Your code can be also hard to debug because of other reasons. The main one is the following, and this is the third thing that you have to learn. You have to learn modularity. Modularity means that your code stands alone and you don't have to write twice the same code for the same thing. The simplest way to think about that is you have several scripts that call between themselves and you have global variables that appear in one script and then in the other one. That's problematic because the codes start to be more difficult to reproduce. The order that you run one script and then you run the other one, then you run the other one, that change the functionality of the code. The easiest way to get modularity is to create functions. Every action that you want to do, it's a function. It's a function that has an input and an output. And now that you have several functions, you can use the scripts to call those functions and to use it. Okay? Functions are tools and scripts is the place where you work and you make that your code does what you want it does. A second level of modularity is object-oriented programming. There are projects where you have to use object-oriented programming, and if you are good with object-oriented programming, that's fine. But I'm a functions lover. I think that almost always you can make up your life only using functions, and you can have a very good code and a clean code using only functions. But if you want to go to classes and objects, the first context when it appears, it's when you feel that functions are not enough to encapsulate everything. That means that you have several functions that look similar, but they are not easy to make in only one function. That usually means that those functions are referring to something else which can have properties that you can use inside each method, and that's why you can have only one method which uses the properties. This doesn't apply always. You can have abstract functions that create another function, but that's the idea. I think that's a good way for a beginner to see why you may need object-oriented programming. Okay, and now that you know these rules, there is a fourth rule or a bonus rule, which is that you can break every rule. Well, never break the rule of Git, but You can break the rules if you know why you are breaking the rules and if you dominate the rules. It means you can decide not to test your code because you want to go fast. You are working on a startup, you need an MVP and you need the MVP fast. And having a lot of tests it's a mess for you. But know that you are taking a risk when you are doing that. In the same sense, if you don't want a product that scale up to infinity, maybe you don't need a lot of level of abstractions with object-oriented programming and abstract functions. I've seen great software engineers leading multi-million dollars projects that were doing no test and that hardly had a function. But the point is, these people knew why they were doing that. For sure, maintaining a code that is too abstract and it has too many tests can be difficult and needs manpower. So as a software engineer, you have to take the right decision here. By the way, if you agree with the things that I'm saying in this video and in your job as a software engineer, you don't think that your technical leaders are following these rules appropriately, my recommendation is switch jobs. I know that with AI, everyone is saying that the market is brutal, but the reality is that it's brutal if you are average. That's why understanding the syntax and knowing how to code is each time less important, and it's more important to understand software philosophy, to understand how to build a good product and to understand the user of that product more than how fast you can write lines of code. I help software engineers to switch jobs and add $30,000 to their annual salary in just 3 months. I only can help a specific kind of person, so if you want to work with me, check out the link on the description, thefreeengineer.com. There you can book a call with me where we can see if I can help you. Ciao, ciao.